Welcome, everyone, to Courageous Creative Conquerors. This is Jean Voice Dart. It's my belief that everyone has a gift of creative expression. We were born to express ourselves to stay healthy and happy. Whether you are planting a garden, writing a story, building a cabinet, sewing a scarf, or singing a song, what matters is expressing from the heart. And the creative and expressive arts are a healthy coping strategy that shifts us from trauma to triumph. So join me as we listen and learn key tips and techniques from our special guest and courageous creative conqueror. My special guest today is Christine Maier, author and motivational speaker. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jean Voice Dart, and this is Courageous Creative Conquerors, and my special guest today is Christine Maier. Welcome, Christine.
Hi, Jean. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, or I should say Chrissy. You prefer Chrissy. Yeah, I'm just delighted to have you here. I've known you for a few years, but we've never really had a chat, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So we'll start by just taking a look at your artist journey. And you have so much to share. I mean, I've been watching your journey throughout the years as a successful author and motivational speaker, and your life journey is just something that I think will really inspire those who are listening today.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a look at some photos here.
Okay.
All right, so tell me about this photo. This is you at just a few months old. What happened in your life?
So, yeah, this is me probably about 3 months old. I was born with a cleft lip and palate. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it is when you're forming as baby in the mother's belly, the roof of the mouth and the lip don't fully join correctly. And so they don't entirely know the cause of it. But I was born with it, both a cleft lip and a cleft palate. And so I had my first surgery at 4 months old to close up the lip. And so this picture would have been, a couple weeks before that.
I didn't realize they start the surgery so soon.
Yeah, the earliest I hear is about 3 months, but it could even be sooner. The biggest issue with that first surgery is actually the weight of the baby.
Well, you look like a very happy, healthy baby there. You're a little bit older here with your family, your mom and dad and grandparents. And have you had a couple of surgeries now? What's happening?
Yeah, so this would have definitely been after my first surgery. I'm not sure. Probably around the time of my second surgery, which was around 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, but my mom loved to dress us all up the same, me and my sisters. And that would have been at my mom's parents' house in their backyard.
So cute. I love the matching outfits there. Yeah. Okay. And here you are. Is this your mom and your sister?
No, it's actually both of my sisters.
Oh, both sisters.
Yeah, I look so tiny in there.
Yeah.
But I was a small kid. So yeah, it was a family vacation out at the beach. I wish I can remember this better, but there's all these pictures that I love from this trip that I can feel the family warmth of us together.
I can too. It's a beautiful picture. And I wanted to ask you, many of the creatives that come on here, I always ask them, were there other people in your family that were creative writers or creative artists or crafters or anything like that that encouraged you in that way?
If you'd asked me when I was younger, I'd be like, no, I don't think so. But, as I look back, as I mature and look back on my life a little with, different set of eyes, I can definitely see some little elements of it. My father was a photographer, an amateur photographer when he was younger, loved taking photographs. And that's something that I've done in my life. And my mom was, doing crafty things with the kids and stuff. So there was a lot of little hints of it, but there was no like dramatic artist type of.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think just the littlest thing, the encouragement and making a family fun time, like just sitting down at the table and making things with paper or crafting or something, it it makes such a difference because what we're doing is encouraging children to express themselves in a healthy, safe way. And yeah, it doesn't have to be overly dramatic, but just encouraging creative play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even if you'd asked me throughout my childhood, I would have said, no, I'm not really that artistic, because I thought of art as like drawing and painting, like what you would do in art class in, elementary school and middle school. And that wasn't necessarily my creative space. So it took me a little bit longer to realize how creative I was.
Yes. And I'm all about expressive arts and arts therapy, creative arts, and for me the definition of arts is huge. I mean, decorating cake, all these artistic ways that we express ourselves. It's not a fine artist. It's all the arts. Just dancing around the room singing while you're doing housework. I think that's what my mother did, and that really encouraged me that freedom to feel good about being creative and artistic. So here you are in the pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think actually probably a good example of a random creative thing my family would do is my parents had a sick tree in the backyard, and when they pulled it out, they just decided to keep digging and put in a pool in the backyard.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
that pool was finished right after I was born. So I grew up a water baby. And I really think that's the place where I did explore some creativity. I was always
Yes.
in the pool. It was flipping into the pool, jumping into the pool, trying to do handstands and playing games in there. That I think that is a very homey sort of place for me to
Yes.
allowed me to let loose.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's some creative thinking there. Having a big hole in your yard and changing it into a pool. It's like, that's the one of the things about and sports. I think go hand in hand with creative arts. It's just another outlet to work out anxieties and give more creative freedom and flow and access that. So that's great.
Yeah.
I love that photo of you. And this is your communion.
Yes.
Yes, look at you.
Yeah. It, just I love this picture because it's I think when you're a kid, you forget to get those pictures of your family. At least back then, when everybody didn't have a phone, you could just snap a picture at any moment.
Yes,
You had to be more intentional about it, and it was
you
film.
sure did. And the cameras were big. Yeah, yeah,
That roll of film only held 24 pictures, and
yeah. I remember. Yeah. Now this is significant here. Tell us about this. You're in New York right now, and this is you with NYPD.
yeah. After I graduated college, I joined the NYPD, became a police officer, and as you'll see in a few pictures, that I also became a sergeant.
Wow. Now that tells me a lot about you. So much perseverance and discipline and just willing to work for it, which I think everyone who is an author has to have because it's a long road sometimes and it's all about don't give up or artist in any way, any of those. Yeah. So how long were you with the police department?
I did 20 years. I hit my 20 years and I retired not long after.
Oh,
It was time to do something different.
wow. Okay. And here you are again.
Yes, that was that was my promotion to sergeant. I think that was 2007. And yeah, that was my parents and the police commissioner. So that was
Great
a little
photo
more. Yeah.
and a proud moment.
Yes.
And this is your family. And how important was your family to you with your journey as an artist and author?
They're so important to me. I think especially, when I was younger with the surgeries, they really were, the backbone to me being able to get through all of that, and also some of the adversity that came with it. And then as I grew older and started to find my own artistic talents, first in photography, which was something I think I got from my dad, and then finding it in writing and becoming more involved in different communities around like cleft lip and palate. I think I get some of that from my mom. And my sisters they're sisters. They're different from me, but we also have a lot in common. And so they are very supportive of me and very helpful in me learning who I am and being who I am, even when they don't like it.
It's so great to have family to support you on that journey. That's a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you began your shifting of your career from a police officer to a published author. And tell us a little bit about that decision. Were you writing, like journaling, up during that time as an adult while you were working as a police officer? How did you shift into being a writer?
It sort of is interesting. I was learning disabled as a child, and it was in particular in the area of reading comprehension. So I was not a big reader as a child, but in high school, one of my friends basically forced me to read a romance novel, and I really enjoyed it. And so I've been reading ever since, and that kind of grew the interest in writing. And so my senior year in high school, I took a reading and writing elective, and in that class, we had to write a children's story, which I'll get back to in a few minutes. But it was just a fun thing for the class that we did. And then I never really revisited writing in a creative way until late in my career in the NYPD. I was starting to think about retirement. I could see it on the horizon and what would I want to do after? And one of the things that came to mind was writing, and sort of had an extremely loose idea for a book, and sort of fell upon a publishing opportunity and said, this is here because this is what I'm meant to do. It just felt right, the timing. And so that's how I got into writing my first book.
Wow, that's wonderful. And thank you for mentioning about your learning disability and challenges. Many people out there have challenges, all different kinds of challenges. I certainly do. And that's why I wanted you to come today to inspire others who feel limited or blocked by these kinds of things. And I know that you have a lot to share to encourage them in that way. Well, let's look here at your books. So this is your first book that came out, An Inward Journey Around the World, Blue Sky Morning. What is the story behind the book?
So one of the many things I enjoy doing is travel. And so I wanted to write a story about somebody traveling around the world, finding themselves. And I think at that point, I was not ready to talk about my own story with a cleft lip and palate. And so I wanted to write something that was a little more universal. And so I wrote about a woman who she'd had a car accident, sort of turned her life upside down and decides to take this trip around the world. So I sort of tapped into some of that experience I had with my cleft lip and palate, also some of the experience I had with my own travels, and brought that all together in writing this novel.
Wonderful. I love it. Yeah. How many different countries have you been to? How much traveling have you done?
Oh, I think it's probably in the 20s,
Wow.
maybe close to
Yeah.
30. Yeah. It's I've just been blessed to be able to
Yeah.
travel so much.
And what appeals to you in the traveling? Why do you
I think
enjoy it?
it's learning about different people in different places, and getting out of your comfort zone. I think that's something that really helps you put things in perspective, and also sort of feeds into some of my own creativity. And, like when I travel, that's one of the times I really like to take photographs. So I think the two sort of meet together, that creative and that knowledge that I love to bring together in all of my endeavors.
So we haven't talked about you as a photographer. Do you have photographs that you can share with us?
There, almost every photo in my apartment is my own photographs.
Uh-huh. That's just a new aspect of you as a creative person that I didn't know about. Do 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 do.
The Too Tall Giraffe.
Too Tall Giraffe.
Yes, and this is that story I wrote in high school that I left at the high school when I graduated, and for years and years said, I wish I'd taken that. And after you write one book, anybody who's ever written a book knows there's always this urge to write a second one. And so I said, why don't I just recreate that book that I wrote as a kid or teenager?
I have the Too Tall Giraffe, and I read it to my granddaughter. And we have children's books on the shelves, and I say, pick out which book you want, and she grabs that book. The giraffe, she loves to hear about it, and she's just learning to talk now. She'll be 3 next month, and she's able to describe to me about them, making fun of the giraffe and her feelings, which, my book is Friends Have Feelings, one of my books. I just think that your book too has that special quality of helping children feel okay about having feelings, and also learning how to have compassion and care for others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we, as humans, we all have little nuances and differences, and we can either be afraid of them and or attack somebody who's different from us, or we can embrace them and find the power in them, and also see those as assets in other people, and use that to build a stronger community or stronger team. And that's really what this book is about.
Yes. Yeah, and I love that you go into the schools and you talk with the children and share that message. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to share that. And I will just say that this is a local giraffe that was really sweet and was very, very well behaved for our photo shoot.
Oh, it's perfect. I love it. And you're wearing a giraffe dress there too.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, here's the book here. Okay. And then there's this activity book. Tell us about that.
So after I did the Too Tall Giraffe, I decided that I wanted to help kids sort of find their superpowers. So I made this little superpower quiz, which if anybody wants it, they can find it on my website. But
can you tell us your website right now?
Oh yeah, it's thechristinemaier.com, and it's right on the front page. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a copy of it right away. And it's just a little quiz to help kids find out where their strengths are. And from that, I said, well, it's great. You know what your strength is. Well, let's find some ways that we can sort of build on those a little bit more. And that's what the superpower activity book is about.
So this is a free little book that you're offering those who are listening today. They can just go there and download that.
The quiz is free. The superpower activity book is just an expanded version. You can buy that on Amazon. But the quiz with some ideas of what to do, help your kids, strengthen their superpowers, find them how they can help others. That's totally free on my website.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that gift. Okay. And tell me about this one. Now, is this another book that you kind of started writing at a younger age and now it's coming out, or is this all totally new?
No, this is totally new.
Okay.
I'd gone to Kenya with Smile Train, which is an organization that does cleft lip and palate repair in underdeveloped countries. And after I really felt the need to write something very specific for cleft lip and palate, and I just found a lot of people, they've heard of it, but they don't know too much about it, or what they know isn't always accurate. So I decided to write a children's book about that. And this is The Day Bert Smiled. And it's in the story, he's in first grade, he's having surgery, and he's a little nervous about the surgery, but he's also nervous about how his classmates are going to react. And so his mom comes into the school and teaches them about cleft lip and palate.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm just applauding you for writing this book, because this is the book that's about your journey. And now you're sharing it and really helping others around the world with this, who have the same situation. So that's so great.
You know, it's fun when you look at Blue Sky Morning and you look at the Too Tall Giraffe, there's little elements of my story in there, and
Yes.
my story influences it. But this one was really fun to put in very intentionally little elements of my own story. In this book, there is a speech therapist, and she's in a wheelchair, and not for diversity's sake, but because my speech therapist was in a wheelchair. So,
Oh,
you know, there's a lot of little things that I was able to put in here where it's not exactly my story, but my story is so infused.
yeah. And for those writers and authors out there, wannabe published writers, how does it feel? Just tell me your feeling now that of course, you've published a couple of books, but now you're publishing something that's really your story that you feel passionate about. How are you feeling now that this is going to be coming out? Coming out in June? Is that what you said?
July, which is
July? Okay. How are
and
you feeling?
oh, you know, I'm really excited about it, but I'm also very nervous,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you're telling your own story, and you know, what if people don't like it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, there are members of the cleft community that are, you know, not so excited about sharing about clefts, whereas I am. And so I understand that there may be some people who are less than thrilled about, you know, the story coming out. And I respect that. But I feel like it's something that we are all better people for learning about.
Well, applause to you for doing that. I think it's really going to make a shift in the world. It's just an important book to get out. And do you have any tips or techniques for all different kinds of creatives? You know, we all are a family here, a creative community. And so it doesn't matter whether you're a crafter, whether you're a musician, or a cake baker, decorator, or a creative writer such as yourself. Do you have any tips for those people who are maybe blocked or starting to feel like, what am I doing? I've been trying so hard. Should I really be doing this, or is the world telling me you can't do it? How do you give advice to somebody that has had some obstacles in their way?
Well, I think first, if you're a creative person, you're a creative person. That does not mean that every creative endeavor is for you. You know, like I have an illustrator because I'm not like a drawing artist. The Too Tall Giraffe, the first illustrations were stick figures of giraffes. Um, they served a purpose, but they were not artistic, and they were not necessarily creative. So, but that doesn't mean I do cake decorating, you know, once in a while. I do a scrapbook once in a while. You know, sometimes I'm doing photography, sometimes I'm not doing it for a while. And so it's okay to ebb and flow between different things.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Do what's feeling natural.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like something's forced, it's not going to come. So, you know, sometimes I'm blocked writing, and it doesn't mean I totally abandon writing, but it means, you know, I sit down for 20 minutes, and if I write 2 sentences and that's it, that's all I'm feeling, I close the laptop and I go do something else.
Yes, I love that advice. I do that too. I love photography. I love drawing. I like graphic art. It's fun to play around and make things. I love crafting. And of course, writing is a passion of mine. Singing, I play the flute. So it's fun to shift around. Sometimes I just can't write. But if I pick up my flute or play the piano, then suddenly something opens inside of me, and then I can go back and write something. So it's great to just shift, or even sports. You even go for a walk or do something. It opens the door to flow and come back and then try again. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done, I think, all of those at some point. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to just let it come in how it wants to come in and not to push it. Because when you push creativity is not something you can force.
Right.
It's something that's just a part of us. So you have to let it out, and forcing it just usually doesn't work. Once in a while it does, but usually doesn't. So just, move into a different area that allows you to open up whatever that is, whether it's the walking, the cake baking, the whatever it is. That's what I find works best for me.
Another thing that works for me is if I decide to create something, whatever it is, with an intention on another person, to give them a gift.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, cooking, baking, or whatever. If I'm baking it for someone else, and I don't want to do it for myself, if I'm kind of stuck or with doing something creative just for me. But if I decide, okay, who can I give to today? And then I do something creative for someone else, that breaks through barriers too. And then I am filled up with more love and flow, and so then I can move on and do something for just for me, and that's a good way to break through, I think.
Yes. And
Mhm.
I find writing, I mean, I know they say for, like, if you're writing notes in a class, that's the best way to learn. But I find there's something in actually writing, whether it's a to-do list, or just some brainstorming some ideas that can open you up too, because that the motion of your hand and the connection to your brain seems to do that.
And what do you think is the most powerful motivator for you to have accomplished this at this point in your life?
I think it's understanding what I'm passionate about, and
Mhm.
also allowing that passion to shift. It doesn't change. Like, I don't like I loved being a police officer. I still am very passionate about policing, even though I don't do it, and even though that's not my regular thing. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years from now I'm writing some book about policing, you
Um,
know, but allowing yourself to sort of shift and ebb and flow into in and out of different things, and recognizing that they may be interconnected in a way that other people may not recognize.
yes. And I think community is important. I know you're a believer in that too, just hanging out with others who are creatives and supporting one another. That helps as well. Yeah. Do you have that in your life too?
I do. I recently joined a writing group here, and it it's nice to be around them and share our struggles and our wins.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And do you have anything else you'd like to share with us? Something coming up, your launch date, or anything else we can share with our listeners?
Yeah, Bert is coming out in July, which is Cleft and Craniofacial Awareness Month. So, if you're following me, you will see a lot about Bert and a lot about cleft and craniofacial awareness in the next couple weeks. And thank you for being open to learning about it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just a joy to get to know you more and have you here. And I look forward to seeing your new book coming out in a few months.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you for having me. And I know I probably did more talking than you did, but I have learned a wealth about you, and I appreciate your openness.
Oh, I appreciate you too. Thank you. And thank you for tuning into Courageous Creative Conquerors, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
To see more Courageous Creative Conquerors videos, join the weekly creative community calls, or learn more about private sessions, visit jeanvoicedart.com.